world-changing research that graduate students are conducting here at Purdue University. 3-Minute Thesis is an international research communication competition that challenges graduate students to effectively explain their research to a non-specialist audience. It is normal for a thesis to be between 100 and 300 pages long, consisting nearly of 80,000 words, and can take a student up to 9 hours to present. But the finalists presenting here tonight will have just 3 minutes and 1 slide. The 3-Minute Thesis, or 3MT competition, was developed by the University of Queensland, Australia. The idea of 3MT came about a time when the state of Queensland was suffering a severe drought. To conserve water, residents were encouraged to time their showers, and many people had a 3-minute egg timer fixed to the wall in their bathroom. The then dean of the graduate school, Professor Alan Lawson, put 2 and 2 together, and the idea of the 3MT competition was born. Since 2011, the popularity of the competition has increased, and 3MT competitions are now held in over 900 universities across more than 85 countries worldwide. The rules for this competition are as follows. Students must use a single slide to enhance their presentations. Their slides cannot have transitions, animations, or movement. No additional electronic media, such as sound or video files, are permitted. Presentations are limited just to 3 minutes maximum, and the decision of the judging panel is final. Now that you know the rules, let's look at the judging criteria. The judges will be evaluating tonight's presentations based on 3 criteria. First, communication style. Was the topic and its significance communicated with the appropriate vocabulary for a non-specialist audience? Second, comprehension. Do you understand the research and does it make sense? And lastly, engagement. Did they make you want to learn more about the research? And which story will you be talking about tomorrow at work? Now that we know what we're looking for, I would like to introduce to you our 2024 3-Minute Thesis judges. First, Dr. Linda Mason is the Graduate School Dean Emeritus and Professor of Etymology. Dr. Mason is responsible for bringing the 3MT competition to Purdue during her time at the graduate school. Next is Brent Bible. He is a Purdue University alum and a member of the President's Council. He graduated in 1998 with a Bachelor of Science degree in Agriculture Economics. Next is Lindsay Perrault, and she is the director of the co-curricular engagement for the Brian Lamb School of Communication and teaches courses in the Purdue's Digital Media Production Center. Lastly is Elena Dewudani, is a third-year PhD candidate in the College of Health and Human Sciences and was last year's winner of the 3MT competition presentation. Let's go ahead and give the judges a final round of applause for volunteering their time for tonight. Now, I would like to introduce to you our first competitor of the evening, Bhakti Shavda, PhD candidate. Bhakti Shavda is from the College of Liberal Arts. She is studying health communication in the Brian Lamb School of Communication. Bhakti moved to the United States in 2017, hoping to earn her master's in biotechnology at the University of Pennsylvania. However, soon after she began, she realized that her passion was working with people and not animals, which led her to her current program. At Purdue, her research focuses on understanding how people make decisions about their health and how we can design solutions to help make this decision-making process more informed. Bhakti is an avid reader, as she has a binge reading record of 16 hours. She is a self-described foodie who has her own Instagram page called What Bhakti Eats and is currently the vice president of the Purdue Cooking Club Boiler Kitchen. The title of her presentation this evening is Advertisements That Work, Addressing the HPV Vaccination Problem in India.
On February 2nd, 2024, a 32-year-old actress in India died of cervical cancer. The very next day, she was alive again. How? Turns out she faked death to promote the human papilloma virus or HPV vaccine. A smart move, right? Well, public health experts disagree. Here's why. In 2020, the world saw over 600,000 cases and 340,000 deaths from cervical cancer. About 22% of these numbers came from India alone, making it the country with the highest cervical cancer cases and deaths in the world. Now, getting the HPV vaccine between ages 9 and 27 prevents this cancer in most cases. But the HPV vaccination rate in India is 1% as compared to 58% in a country like the US. As a part of my research, understanding why that is the case, I interviewed parents of Indian girls aged 9 to 17 and found that one issue showed up in most responses: communication, or rather, the lack of it. Lack of communication played out in three ways. First, the government was not endorsing the vaccine, due to which very few people had heard of it before. Second, parents limited all dialogue about sexual contact with their children to good versus bad touch, and safe sex was seldom discussed. Unfortunately, HPV spreads through sexual contact. Finally, parents said they would trust the vaccine more if information about it came from a gynecologist. Except, most mothers hadn't seen a gynecologist in about a decade. With such low vaccine awareness, exposure to information about it through a fake death stunt can drive attention away from the problem to the absurdity of the stunt. One responsible way of raising large-scale awareness is through advertisements that work. And for step 2 of my research, I am designing these ads and testing them directly on hundreds of parents. I start with 2 common sources of health information in India: doctors who are highly trusted and celebrities who are not trusted but popular and used in all existing vaccine campaigns. Next, I match each source with 2 different promotional strategies. One, by logically persuading these parents through statistics that emphasize or highlight the problem of vaccination, and the other by targeting their emotions through statistics that emphasize the harm from cervical cancer. Ultimately, my research will help identify ads that will convince these parents to promptly seek the vaccine. After all, do we really need a stunt trivializing death from cancer to increase vaccination? Thank you.
Our next competitor of the evening is Jose Capa Salinas, a PhD candidate from the College of Engineering, studying at the Lyell School of Civil Engineering with a focus on structural engineering. Jose was recognized as a young leader to follow by the Institute of Transportation Engineers and received an honorable mention for the most outstanding interdisciplinary project. Jose wants to continue building upon opportunities to connect with other professionals and develop long-lasting relationships for future collaborations while pursuing a faculty position in a research-focused institution. Outside of academics, Jose is a professional musician, and he graduated from the conservatory and has been playing the cello for more than 16 years in professional orchestras and ensembles. The title of Jose's 3-minute thesis presentation this evening is "Can Drones Make Your Bridges Safer?"
I want you to picture driving over a bridge. From highway bridges to the larger ones, like the Baltimore Bridge, we interact with these structures daily. But nearly half of American bridges are 50 years old, and 46,000 are in poor condition. Fingers crossed you didn't drive over one of those on your way back from the cliffs. Who is taking care of this infrastructure? Civil engineers. Civil engineers climb hundreds of feet over the ground, work adjacent to dangerous traffic, and even defy sun, rain, snow, and sleet. And we have been doing this for decades, all to make sure you make it home safely. This is where my research comes in. I employ revolutionary technology, like drones, to monitor infrastructure. Yes, drones can be more than toys or tools to take fancy pictures. Drones have much greater capabilities than a human inspector. They can fly away hundreds of feet in a matter of seconds, take pictures with the push of a button, or even pick up objects. But with this rapid innovation comes a need for caution. Currently, no laws or even guidelines address drone inspection requirements, inspector training, or techniques to get the best information. In other words, drone inspection is like the wild, wild west. As these drones bust through the skies, tumbling over and under bridges, we are left with a pressing question. How can we responsibly harness this innovation? I have answered this question. I developed a series of tests that simulate the complex geometry of bridges, pushing these drones to their limits. The tests are an environment that mimics bridge shapes, a performance test under variable wind, a drone battery life test, a flight checklist, and a practical test in a real bridge. I completed all of this work so when a drone tells us a bridge is safe, we can believe it. Drones can provide faster and safer inspections, ensuring that the American bridge inventory remains standing. In the future, I look forward to a day when the safety of our infrastructure is no longer a question, but a certainty. I hope my tests become standards and hold up the bridges of tomorrow. Thank you.
Next up is PhD student Vashi Negi from the College of Science. Vashi is studying in the Department of Biological Sciences, and she is very passionate about understanding viruses and how they infect us. A fun fact about Vashi is she was once stranded in Belgium after her belongings were stolen, and with no passport or phone, she ended up sleeping on strangers' couches while she explored Paris. Vashi's presentation is entitled Unlocking a Universal Key and Search for Drugs Against Dangerous Viruses.
What if I told you that we could kill different types of viruses with the same weapons? We're all coming out of a devastating global pandemic that has killed over 7 million people so far. Surely, some of you in this audience have wondered, will this happen again? Will there be another pandemic? And if so, what are we doing to prepare for it? Because with environmental changes and population growth, the likelihood of future pandemics has increased. There are over 250 types of viruses that can infect us. And of those, 7 have been identified as having high pandemic potential. That number can increase as we learn about new viruses. Unfortunately, so far, out of those 7, we only have drugs for 2 of them. My research question is, how do we address this gap? And can we find common targets in these viruses to develop common solutions, like designing a master key that can open several locks? So to this end, I focused my research efforts on a protein found in Synbis virus. This is a virus that causes Synbis fever and belongs to one of the 5 virus groups we don't have drugs for. I made mutations and deletions in this protein and found that greatly weakened the virus, making it a potential drug target. Great news. But is it a common drug target? To find that, my colleagues and I replaced this protein with proteins from other dangerous but unrelated viruses that cause some serious diseases like AIDS, flu, COVID-19, and hepatitis C. We found that these proteins have a common function. They behave similar to each other, and their common function can be targeted with drugs. Now, wouldn't it be amazing if the same drugs could work against all of them? So we tested for exactly that, and I'm excited to share that a common set of drugs do work against these proteins and can help us prevent these viruses from spreading. Going forward, we plan to design better and safer versions of these drugs and offer them for broad use, because that will help bring treatment options to people faster in the case of a viral outbreak. See, we don't know the future, but we can prepare for it, right? And common targets can lead to common solutions. My research is just one of the many steps we can take to finding those common solutions, that master key that can help us prepare for an uncertain future against an invisible enemy. Thank you.
Next up, please welcome PhD candidate Thomas Clark from the College of Science, studying in the Department of Chemistry. Before beginning his doctoral studies, Thomas earned his master's degree in education and taught high school chemistry and biology in Mobile, Alabama for 2 years. A fun fact about Thomas was he was the final professional mascot, Teddy Bay Bear, of the Mobile Bay Bears, a now defunct AA minor league baseball team from Mobile, Alabama. Thomas's presentation this evening is entitled Taking Charge of Centuries-Old Science.
I am here to remind you that science does not have all the answers. Let's take battery research as an example. Everywhere you turn nowadays, you're seeing batteries being used. They're powering our phones, our hearing aids, our pacemakers, and today, they're fueling electric vehicles. Billions upon billions of dollars are being spent every year to study and develop better battery materials. You would think that through all of this research, we'd have a pretty good idea about how batteries worked, right? But what if I told you that as of 2 years ago, we couldn't even explain the world's first battery? Let me give you some context. You see, back in 1800, a man named Alessandro Volta assembled a stack of alternating discs of zinc and silver that were separated by pieces of cardboard soaked in salt water. This little device sparked a revolution by providing the world with the first source of continuous electric energy. In my PhD research, I decided to re-examine this historic battery. I read textbooks, I surveyed the literature. Nobody seemed to have a clear answer to a very simple question. Where do electrons go in the world's first battery? This wasn't for lack of trying, though. Scientists repeatedly studied Volta's battery for decades after its invention. You have to remember, though, that at this time, scientists were also guessing that electricity was some invisible but physical fluid, and electrons, they weren't even dreamt of yet. Volta's battery could not be explained with the science of his time, and has since become obsolete. But today, scientists all agree that the electricity that Volta's pile created is actually from the flow of electrons. But where those electrons went, nobody knew. Through my research, I was able to show that most of the electrons in the world's first battery, they go to oxygen. Yes, that same molecule that's dissolved in our oceans and allows fish to live is the same molecule in the salt water of Volta's battery that completes the circuit. Imagine that. This stack of metals and soaked cardboard spearheaded numerous other discoveries, but its underlying mechanism remained a mystery. Science did not have the answer to how this momentous invention worked. You see, for almost any scientific discovery, there are still countless questions remaining to be answered, even regarding centuries-old science. Remember that the next time you charge your phone. Our science today may even be disproven tomorrow, but the developments it can lead to are extraordinary.
Our next competitor is Paul Knutson, and Paul is a commissions officer in the U.S. Army, hailing from the Pacific Northwest of Summamish, Washington. A graduate of West Point, he holds dual bachelor degrees in Chinese and human geography and is currently pursuing a master's degree in non-standard logistics at Purdue's Aviation and Transportation Technology School. Beyond his professional endeavors, the highlight of Paul's personal life is his wife, Erica, and his newborn daughter. Paul's presentation is entitled Sea-Based Disaster Logistics.
What difference can 3 days make? Imagine a moment when the ground beneath your feet felt unsteady, when the sight of rising water made your heart race with fear, and you resigned yourself to no help coming anytime soon. For most of us sitting here today, this is not a relatable experience. Not so for those living on islands. From 2010 to 2022, island nations suffered 934 natural disasters, causing 276,000 deaths and affecting 188 million people. That's 3 times the amount suffered by continental locations in the same period. And all of this could have been different if aid arrived within 3 days. The problem addressed by this study is that islands experience these negative outcomes due to easily disrupted logistics. Unfortunately, though the scale and frequency of natural disasters continues to rise, disaster logistics is relatively static, and it's unspecialized towards islands. Moreover, the need for this specialization seems invisible. Reviewing hundreds of scholarly articles, I found none that address the continental island divide. Oft overlooked, our world contains over 100,000 islands, with 500 million inhabitants, all of them isolated from aid during a disaster. But how important is this aid? Remember that number, 3 days. When water and medical aid fail to arrive within 3 days of a disaster, deaths dramatically increase. This study imagines a new mode of disaster resupply to close that crucial 3-day window to less than a day. How? A network of undersea aid modules placed on the ocean floor prior to a disaster and released afterwards for recovery by isolated communities. Now, you might ask, what are the alternatives? Well, continental locations have air, maritime, rail, road. Islands have 2, air and maritime. And importantly, numerous case studies document ruined runways, inoperable towers, and washed out roads, making these ineffective for isolated communities. My results, focused on feasibility, efficacy, and sustainability, are extremely promising. Feasibility. Maritime design experts and patents confirm that undersea resupply is viable with existing technology. Efficacy. I ran simulations using geographic information systems and modeling software to generate optimal parameters for effective use. And sustainability. Unlike traditional land facilities, undersea modules have minimal impact on the natural landscape. They're relatively secure from disasters, and they're very secure from theft, meaning that the aid will be there when needed. But most importantly, we can be there on day 1. Thank you.
Our next speaker is PhD candidate Lynn Krasinski from the College of Science. Lynn is studying in the Department of Chemistry in the Analytical Division. And a fun fact about Lynn is she is very passionate about bringing science to the next generation of scientists in her free time. She spends her weekends teaching youngsters in grades 1 through 9 electrochemistry through Purdue's Gifted Education Institute. Her presentation this evening is entitled Droplet Like It's Hot, The Curious Chemistry of Confined Water.
I'm here to convince you that life started in a droplet. We've all felt rain falling or seen rain falling on our windshield on a rainy day, or felt the refreshing mist of sea spray on a warm beach. But have you ever thought about how droplets, just like these ones, might hold the key to the origins of life? How could humans have become such complex beings when Earth started with just a few simple compounds and elements? And how could small droplets have served as the link between this primordial chemistry and complex life on Earth? Scientists here at Purdue and elsewhere have spent years demonstrating that small water droplets behave very differently than water in bulk, like that in the ocean. You see, water on this scale has hidden properties that make complex chemistry possible. And learning more about this curious chemistry requires the development of new measurement tools to probe them. New truths of nature can only be unveiled as measurement science becomes advanced enough to unveil them. And this is where I come in. I have spent the past 3 years developing new methods for the analysis of small droplets. I'm an electrochemist by trade, meaning I use electrodes which are about 1 centimeter in diameter to drive and study reactions. It may seem unlikely then that I can play a role in the analysis of small droplets, as the droplets I'm talking to you about are smaller than we can see. Being smaller than a micron in diameter, they're 100 times smaller than a single human hair. That'd be like trying to measure something smaller than a pea with something bigger than a telephone pole. As such, I've had to use some clever manipulations to gain access to these droplets. And with this, I've been able to have 2 particularly striking observations and measure the previously unmeasurable. 1, reactive species are spontaneously generated in these droplets. And these reactive species can drive unfavorable reactions like the building of proteins from simple amino acids. And 2, enzymes, which catalyze crucial reactions in our bodies every day, work much, much faster when they're confined to a small droplet versus when they're in a beaker of water. This is important because these small droplets are similar in volume to the droplets in our cells. And the way biochemists have been studying these enzymes for years in a big beaker may not be unveiling the true chemistry in nature. With these 2 observations, we've been able to show that droplets might be able to do the seemingly impossible: drive the chemistry that made life possible. Thank you.
Please welcome our next competitor, PhD student Janine Arana from the College of Agriculture. In 2020, she joined the Myers Lab in the Department of Horticulture and Landscape Architecture at Purdue University as a graduate research assistant. Throughout her time at Purdue, she has been deeply involved in organizing various professional and recreational activities to enhance her peers' grad school experience. Janine fell in love with riding roller coasters at the age of 20 and has made it a goal to ride as many roller coasters as possible. The title of her presentation is entitled Cover Crops in the War Against Weeds.
I want you to close your eyes and think about weed science. Now stop. I'm not referring to that kind of weed. I'm talking about unwanted plants that cause food crop production losses. In the weed science world, we often talk about the war against weeds. In this war, I see myself as a researcher warrior. But my weapon isn't a sword or a gun, it's a hammer. You might be wondering, why a hammer? In agriculture, we have a concept called many little hammers. This refers to using multiple strategies, each a little hammer, to effectively control weeds. The most common strategy is using chemicals called herbicides. Herbicides are like special potions that farmers spray on the weeds to eliminate them. Unfortunately, they can unintentionally harm the environment, animals, and humans. The good news is that there are other, less harmful strategies, including planting cover crops. Cover crops are crops grown not for harvest, but to cover and protect the ground. However, only about 8% of the United States farmers utilize them. Why? Mostly due to a lack of information on which cover crop to choose and how to use it effectively. So here's where my research steps in. I use several cover crops as my hammer to fight weeds in the walkways of strawberry fields. The cover crop that stood out was cereal rye. Now, what made cereal rye so impressive? It completely controlled weeds without compromising our strawberry production. Complete weed control, a fight won in this war against weeds. Moreover, the benefits of cereal rye extend beyond my research. It's been proved that it reduces erosion, increases biodiversity, and improves soil quality. And the best part, it poses no risk to the environment, animals, or humans. So, cover crops aren't just a little hammer. They are a big, powerful tool that farmers can use to build resilient agricultural ecosystems. And the most rewarding for me is that because of my research, strawberry farmers will know which cover crop to choose and how to use it effectively. So next time you're enjoying a juicy strawberry, think about it as a proof of the resilience of our agricultural ecosystems and as a victory in the war against weeds. So let's celebrate these victories and support sustainable farming practices while we hammer down weeds.
Next up is PhD student Theanos Kaelaris from the College of Science, studying in the Department of Earth, Atmospheric, and Planetary Sciences. Theanos is a planetary geologist who grew up in the UK, and his interest in space science began as a child watching Doctor Who. He earned his undergraduate degree in geology from Imperial College in London, and since 2022, he has helped operate the camera system aboard NASA's latest Mars rover. A few fun facts about Theanos are he is a big fan of world history, he is half English and Greek, and has a kitten named Ginkgo who loves to eat cardboard. His presentation is entitled Using Clay to Decipher the Climate of Ancient Mars.
Is there life on Mars? It's a big question, and one we don't yet know the answer to. But after decades of research by orbiters and rovers, we now know that deep in its past, around 3.5 billion years ago, the planet Mars was much more like Earth than the cold desert it is today. I'm a geologist who uses data from these spacecraft to try and uncover the history of the red planet. One of the biggest mysteries in Mars science is what were surface conditions like in its ancient heyday? We know there was water, but was Mars a warm and wet planet or a cold and icy one? This has important implications in the search for alien life. Because if Mars was a warm and wet planet, then we might expect to find fossil traces in surface deposits. But if Mars was cold and icy, if life evolved at all, it may have had to seek refuge deep underground. One way we can answer this question is to look in ancient rocks for the traces left behind when water interacted with them. Clay minerals turn out to be very sensitive to surface conditions, and so different kinds of clays can signal different climates. We can detect different clay minerals without ever visiting up close, using spectroscopy. This is where we measure the color of materials at wavelengths beyond which the human eye can see, and then compare that to measurements made in the lab. In this way, we can detect these different clay minerals from orbit and map their extent over much of the planet's surface. Much like the Grand Canyon in the United States, Marth Vallis is a giant water-carved valley with ancient rocks exposed in its valley walls. When we tried this technique here, we found abundant clay minerals that must have formed when the planet was much wetter than today. In particular, we found a consistent regional sequence where insoluble clays overlie more soluble clays. This vertical trend is consistent with the top-down alteration you would get from rainwater percolating into the ground. In this way, we were able to find that early Mars was a lot more Furthermore, we were able to find that the thickness of this insoluble clay deposit reached 80 meters, or 260 feet thick in places. Sorry, guys. Yeah. Have a nice evening.
Our next speaker is Kinnari Arte, a PhD student from the College of Pharmacy, studying in the Department of Industrial and Molecular Pharmaceutics. Her research focuses on exploring the effects of cutting-edge drying technologies on the stability and pulmonary delivery of biological formulations. Kinnari loves traveling and exploring new places. Her presentation this evening is entitled Take a Deep Breath, a focus on inhaled therapy.
What if I tell you that taking medicines could involve just a simple breath? Remember the recent times when we all took those painful COVID-19 shots? What if those could be inhaled instead? Yes, it's possible. Let me show you how. In fact, let's just all do it together. Everyone with me. Using your mouth, take a deep breath in, hold, and slowly exhale. And that's exactly how a medication from the inhaler reaches deep lungs. Did you know 3 out of top 10 leading causes of death are related to some form of lung infections? And targeting lungs using dry powders for inhalation rather than an oral tablet or a painful injection has actually proven to be more effective in fighting some of these infections. So why don't we do that with all medicines instead? Why don't we just sit back, relax, take a deep breath, and let medicines do their job? Simple, isn't it? Unfortunately, no. Targeting lungs is like threading a needle. The powders to be inhaled must be just the right size. Too big, and they deposit in the throat, and if they are too small, they get exhaled out with every breath. Yet, size isn't everything. The medication must be stable too. In fact, the problem of stability was indeed evident with COVID vaccines. Millions of doses were being thrown out due to faulty freezers, leading to billions of dollars going down the drain. And that's where my research comes in. It centers around addressing these 2 main issues. 1, inhalability, and 2, stability. We tackle the problem of inhalability by developing processes that will allow us to generate these powders such that they are just the right size to be inhaled. And we tackle the problem of stability by adding sugars. My recent findings have revealed adding as little as 5 to 10% sugars not just improves stability, but also inhalability by a staggering 15%. Who knew? A simple ingredient used in kitchen can be so impactful in medicine. We are now using insights from my research to develop vaccines that remain stable at room temperature. Even better, what if we could convert them into a form that people could simply inhale? And that's the end goal of my research. So next time you hear of inhalable medicine, remember our lab where we tried developing a formula so that a kiss of affection does not transmit a germ of infection. Thank you.
And our final presenter this evening is master's student Kevin Alessandro Bautiste from the College of Engineering, studying in the Weldon School of Biomedical Engineering. Kevin graduated from Purdue with his bachelor's degree in the same field. He enjoys playing guitar, trying to run, and listening to audiobooks. He is from the Philippines and loves seeing his family back home, but hates flying. He would swim to them if he could, but he never learned how to swim. The title of Kevin's presentation this evening is Hakuna Matata, a new way of monitoring stress.
Chronic diseases are the invisible killers of America. Affecting about half of the US population, it's likely you know someone suffering from conditions like diabetes, hypertension, and heart disease. These conditions are debilitating, with their effects spanning years and often lifetimes. A common factor in many of them, stress. Progressive and long periods of high stress levels can lead to mental health issues like depression and anxiety, and physically show through hypertension, heart disease, and even stroke. Especially with chronic diseases, early diagnosis and consistent monitoring are keys to prevention and proper treatment. Medical devices have advanced to allow us to properly monitor these conditions, leading to better patient care. For example, glucose monitors for diabetes patients have become a popular method of tracking blood sugar levels and even providing treatment. Stress, however, is not as simple. Cortisol, the adrenaline hormone used to monitor stress levels, has much lower concentrations, making it harder to measure. Traditional methods like blood and urine samples aren't done frequently enough, and usually only at a doctor's appointment months away, with no reliable platform for real-time monitoring and better preventative care. Now, one way we can measure cortisol is through electrochemistry. Similar to how white light, when shined through a prism, splits into beautiful colors of light that move at different frequencies, we can send a signal of different frequencies to a sample that has cortisol and determine its concentration from the response. It's a process that opens up a whole new world of minimally invasive monitoring because we can do this with small amounts of samples and still detect the small concentrations of cortisol as it changes throughout the day. The problem? Devices that can conduct these measurements are huge, bulky, and cost thousands of dollars, making them terrible candidates for wearable monitors and inaccessible to a lot of people. My thesis revolves around the development of a miniaturized sensor that can do the same functionality at a fraction of the size and a fraction of the cost. My work fits comfortably in the palm of your hand, and our initial tests have shown that it is comparable to a $50,000 device and yielded results with errors less than 1%, all at the cost of $50. Our next step is to test it with cortisol so that when used with a non-invasive sample like saliva, it'll run these measurements, determine concentrations, and provide real-time results to the user's phone. Insights like these provide long-term measurements that can be used with clinicians to better understand how patients manage their stress levels. With a lower cost and a smaller size, my work aims to open the door to better wearable monitoring for stress, better patient care and treatment plans, and ultimately lower the rates of mortality from these invisible killers by providing visible results. Thank you.
Wow, what an amazing group of graduate students. If we could just go ahead and give them another round of applause. And now it's time for the judging panel to gather backstage for deliberation and for you to vote for the People's Choice winner. Just a couple of things to keep in mind while you're making your People's Choice winner selection. Was the research topic and its significance communicated in a language appropriate for a non-specialty audience? Did you understand the research that was presented? And lastly, did the presentation make you want to learn more? So to vote, all you have to do is just pull out your phone and scan the QR code on the screen here, and it will take you right directly to the page to vote for the People's Choice winner. We'll put this up on the screen for a couple of minutes to give you guys the opportunity to vote. Did everybody cast their votes? Did we get our votes in? Awesome. So while the three MT judges finished deliberating, I would like to introduce to you another graduate school research competition called Say It in 6. This competition is based on a concept from the Smith magazine called 6-Word Memoirs and challenges graduate students to tell their graduate research story with only one picture and 3 words. 6 words. So out of more than 160 submissions, just 10 finalists were chosen. The Purdue community was asked to vote for their People's Choice winner, and over the course of 10 days, 3,400 people did just that. So I am happy to share with you today the 2024 Say It in 6 People's Choice winner is Rosaline Adui. So Rosaline, if you could come up here and accept your prize. You can come this way, sorry. We're going to keep you for a second. Rosaline received 1,320 votes for her entry, scripting new papers from old literature. Congratulations, Rosaline. And next, please join me in congratulating this year's second place winner, Marco Fretis, with his entry, Sugar Wars, A New Wearable Hope. Congratulations. Yep. I'll put you over here for pictures. Congratulations. And finally, the winner of the 2024 Say It in 6 competition and a $1,000 award is Raymond Shaw, turning rough edges into research gold. Raymond Shaw, if you're here, you want to come up and accept your prize? Maybe? Oh, in the back. Judges are still deliberating, so we'll sit tight for just a few more minutes. But I have to say, I was here yesterday for rehearsals, and I got to watch every single person up here today, and it's seriously amazing what these Purdue students can do every single year. So I want to give another round of applause to them again, those graduate students. All right. In just a few minutes, we'll announce the winners, so sit tight. Sorry, Raymond Shaw, could you come back up here, please? With your check. Okay, are we ready? So again, congratulations to our Say It in 6 winners, but now for the moment we've all been waiting for, the 3MT winners this evening. So the first winner I will announce is the People's Choice and a recipient of $2,000. The People's Choice winner this evening, Janine Arena. Congratulations. Thank you. Okay. The next name I will announce is our second place winner and a recipient of $3,000 is Thomas Clark. Good job. What we've all been waiting for. The first place winner of the 2024 3MT competition and a recipient of $5,000 is Kevin Alessandro Bautista. Good job. A special thank you to our audience tonight. Thank you guys so much for being here this evening, and to the judges for sharing this evening with us. We hope you guys all enjoy learning a little bit more about the incredible work that happens here at Purdue University. Have a great night, everyone, and get home safely.